Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I'm going to be hopping into the 5-minute pool playing a fun and interesting game of chess. And I've heard what you guys have said. You've said bring back the Elephant Gambit. So this is for you guys. Thanks for leaving all the positive comments. If I do anything but the elephant, people riot. If you play the elephant too much, people riot. There's nothing you can do to please everybody. But let's see if we can remember how to do this and try to take down Mershman in a hopefully instructive or interesting game of chess. Now, this is the line of the Elephant Gambit that I find particularly venomous, with many, many, many traps. One of those traps being bishop to c4. More commonly, you will see opponents trade off. I've played knight to c6 in order to try to trade off white's only active piece. And if I get challenged here, I think I can actually take this and play some endgame line. But I'm going to play bishop to b4 in the hopes of transposing into some of the lines that gets white into a lot of trouble. So the problem with bishop to c4 is that I'm always able to go here, which is usually winning, even though my f-pawn is hanging. And a common mistake that people make, very common, is to trade here and then play bishop to d2. So maybe we will see that. If instead we see bishop to d2 without the trade, I'm going to be able to either take this knight first, or I should be able to take this pawn and win a little bit of material. So opponent here is thinking, and I'm expecting that they're going to take this knight, because here I can just take here. It's not what I want to do. It's not the kind of position that I was hoping to play, but now my queen is actually attacked. So the alternative would be to take and then take here. It just doesn't look particularly appealing. So I will reluctantly take my pawn back. And if opponent goes here, I guess I'll end up with doubled pawns. And I guess this is my opponent's idea. It'll ruin my pawn structure. So they're, I guess, delighted to do this. But we'll see what happens. I still have a very active position. I'm expecting maybe this bishop will come out and opponent will try to castle kingside. If the queen comes out because they want to go queenside, this also looks like a very possible line. Here I could be kind of lame and try to trade queens. I'm wondering about this move. And potentially, am I crazy enough to castle on the queen side? If the opponent plays f3, then they won't be able to easily castle. And if they go back, I'm trying to figure out if I actually can play a move like this, threatening to just bring my rooks into the game. Also, maybe castling kingside also has a similar idea. But we shall see. Aha, the knight goes back. So if I take here and the opponent goes here, I can go here. And I guess the king is going to take. This cannot be very pleasant for the opponent. So let's take first. Because we're hoping for here and then takes. If they go here, they're just simply down a pawn. Interesting. Okay. So they are just kind of down a pawn. Now they're threatening to go here. So let's trade this first. Then get castled. We'll be going kingside. The opponent is forcing me to remain quite solid. They did avoid all of the tricks and traps, but they find themselves now in a not particularly good position. I would like to just begin centralizing my rooks. This guy moves, I probably will be able to take the A pawn. I do have some weaknesses of my own, so it's not like, you know, I just win, but I should be comfortable here. And we'll see how this middle game plays out. Okay, I don't know where the knight is going, so that means I'm scared. I'm going to use this rook, keeping this guy protected, just in case, you know, I move my other rook. Maybe the queen had queen a5, targeting things. Okay, they're putting things very close to my king. Not very appreciated. Let's start with this move. I don't know. I think they're trying to like somehow bring all knight in. The opponent he's very clearly going for my king, so I should act very cautiously here. I could bring another rook in. Okay. Okay. This pawn. Okay. I'll be lame. I feel lamer than I would like to be. But I'm a pawn up, so I have to take on a completely different role here. I have to take on the role of the guy that's trying to convert a position a pawn up. I played the gambit not to be a pawn up, but to be a pawn down, fighting for the initiative on every turn. But yet here I am. Just, you know, here I am. This pawn? All right, let's just tuck away here. And what is this? It's so horrible being on this side. I like being the guy that's down a pawn. You don't have to worry about things like, what if the opponent attacks my pawn and then takes it? Okay. This will keep the E file closed in case the opponent wants to use a rook. Somehow, I feel like disturbing this bishop should be a part of my long-term plan here. I think the queen is actually on a nice diagonal here for some future endgames. We'll see how this all goes. It feels like the plan almost needs to be make this bishop go to a suboptimal square. So I'm going to try to move my rook up, try to play c4, misplace this bishop if possible. And we shall see. When I do all of this, I guess in this order, when the bishop will be able to come here. That's just something that is possible. That move makes sense or not? I don't know. I have pinned their bishop, and it looks like they should be in a lot of trouble now. This might be a one-move blunder here that ends the game. We'll see what they decide to do. I guess they're going to play rook takes e6 and make me decide how I want to recapture, because I could easily recapture with the queen and just be up material this way. I could also take with a pawn, and then the queen would be attacked. I actually think I am going to do this. It feels simplest. Now, if takes, I'm going to be doing well. Obviously, pawn takes. Very strong. But opponent is also very low on time. And they have here resigned. So this is it. This was the Elephant Gambit. We're bringing it back. And let's see how it went today. If you're unfamiliar with the Elephant Gambit, it's a really cool, interesting line that you can play against e4, knight f3 players. You play e5 and d5. And no matter what they take, you have the option of playing knight to f6. This is not the most popular way of handling the position, but I find it quite pleasant because after the opponent takes the other pawn, you play queen to d5. And if you haven't seen it, if you're new to the channel, there's so many tricks and traps. If they go this way, you're able to very quickly mobilize your forces and play for some very quick attack. If they play d4, you're able to challenge this knight with knight to c6. And there's a million traps here. This one is a particular trap. After this, you go here, and if they do take this pawn, which happens most of the time, you're winning right away. More commonly, you will see that people are instead choosing to trade off this bishop. This is the most common way, and here the most common trap is that people play knight to c3, threatening to bring the bishop out. You pin this guy, and then bishop to d2. They usually get themselves into trouble. You castle, they usually play bishop to e2. It's the same thing. You take the g-pawn, and all of these lines typically lead to very pleasant positions for black. However, my opponent decided to do it a little bit differently, and they started with knight to c3, but without removing my knight on the c6 square, and this allows me to go here. I know that this is a possible line, where you can play like this, and you're going to end up with doubled pawns, however black decides to, however white decides to go for this. But something like this, while possible, is not the kind of game that I'm hoping to play with black. So I played bishop to b4, and I'm still hoping that the opponent will take here, or mess up and play some move like this, which will lose to queen takes g2. But instead, we saw here, and now reluctantly, I'm forced to take back this pawn against my will. I really didn't want to win my pawn back, but now my opponent is able to ruin my structure. Possibly they still have some advantage here, but it didn't seem very relevant during the game. They played bishop d3, and this might already be a mistake. Queen e2, bishop e6, castles, which I think I mentioned, might be the most interesting and enterprising way for white to try to do this. Put the rook on the same file as my queen. Maybe I can castle. I'd have to figure this out. Maybe I'll have to move my queen soon. Bishop g5, and you gain some tempi, and we're going to have some sort of attack where maybe I can try to say, hey, look, I got the b file. I got some pressure on your c3 knight, but I think this would have been a more testing way for the opponent to have continued today. Instead, what we saw was bishop to d3, and I played bishop to g4. Like, I'm sure I can castle. I was trying to provoke f3, which is actually the computer move. And then queen e2, and they're going to castle on the queen side, presumably, is what the computer wants. The computer always wants you to go on the queen side in this position. But instead, my opponent played here. I decided to take on b2. So far, we're playing a very correct game. This doesn't feel like me. It just doesn't feel like a Jonathan Schrantz video when you play this correct, but somehow my opponent brought it out on me. I took this bishop here just to make sure there was no rook to b1 on the next move. Now I got castled, and here I have some advantage. I'm a pawn up. It is these doubled pawns, but still, it managed to work itself out quite nicely. I brought my rook into the game. Brought my queen all the way back. He's going to go around attacking all of my pawns, but I'm able to coordinate and centralize all of my pieces quite nicely. And then at some moment, there was just a one-move tactic. White has been suffering in kind of a slightly worse position here. And finally, they cracked. And queen takes actually is the correct move, and all of that is fine. So I actually played a really good game, which is weird because I've never seen this line before. But it turned out not to be too big of a problem. And if you want to take care of your opponents with the Elephant Gambit, let me know in the comments below if you want more Elephant Gambits. Subscribe to the channel while you're down there, and I'll see you guys for the next video.